All right. Trump dodges another bullet. I was there. Let's check it out. Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. The latest deranged madman to try and kill the President of the United States, Cole Thomas Allen, from right outside L.A., a 31-year-old teacher and tutor still living at home with his parents. A no-kings, blue-sky, brainwashed sycophant trying to save the world from the American president. Allen was arraigned in federal court today in Washington. Multiple charges, including attempted assassination of the American president. U.S. Attorney for D.C. Jeanine Pirro this afternoon.
Make no mistake, this was an attempted assassination of the President of the United States, with the defendant making clear what his intent was. And that intent was to bring down as many of the high-ranking cabinet officials as he could. This is the kind of situation that we cannot tolerate. This is anti-democratic at its core.
That's exactly right. And here was the moment it all happened on Saturday night. Take a look. Just right there, multiple shots heard just outside the Correspondents' dinner ballroom as the President and First Lady entertained by a mind reader. You see there, just wanted to show that to you. Cole Allen, armed, running full speed right through the Secret Service security checkpoint, one level below the hotel lobby. He fires a shot, hits a Secret Service agent who was saved by his vest. Cole is fired upon multiple times, not hit by any bullets, tackled to the ground. You see him there. To the credit of Secret Service, the president was not in danger. The security worked for Trump. However, there's a lot to talk about here. The rest of the cabinet was very vulnerable on Saturday night. We all walked into this hotel holding a very basic ticket printed on paper. Anybody could have made these. Nobody really even looked at it, and you got right into the hotel. You're in the building now. It was easier to get into that hotel Saturday night than it would be to get into a minor league baseball game. Think about that. As I walked to the entrance, Health Secretary Kennedy jumped right out of his motorcade right in front of me. I could have been anybody. I could have been anybody with a fake ticket. I could have easily been armed. Nobody had searched anything at this point. Once inside, you walked down one level and you found the red carpet. You're seeing right here on the screen. Look at all the people there. Bessent, Rubio, Hegseth, all the heavy hitters doing interviews. No security yet whatsoever. Anybody could have brought a gun down to that level very easily. Somebody well-trained could have taken out a couple cabinet secretaries with relative ease. It would not have been that hard if you knew how to use a gun. It was something else. After you got through that is when you finally went through security, and then you went down one more open flight of stairs and you got to where you were going, and that was the ballroom. But it's pretty obvious we have gotten to the point where the president, Trump, can no longer be treated like past presidents have been. This man is far too hunted. You can't have him at events like this at just an open hotel, where a crazy man can just check in the day before this with an arsenal of weapons in his bag. And nobody's searching all the rooms. It's a huge, old hotel. After Trump was cleared from the scene on Saturday, he held a news conference at the White House. The whole team still all glammed up in their formal wear. The president saying this.
Respectfully, why do you think this keeps happening to you?
Well, you know, I've studied assassinations, and I must tell you, the most impactful people, the people that do the most, you take a look at the people, Abraham Lincoln, I mean, you go through the people that have gone through this where they got them. But the people that do the most, the people that make the biggest impact, they're the ones that they go after.
Got a point there. As we know, the left is decimating this country. We see it every time they get power. They have gone to the absolute extreme. They're ruining everything. We all see it. Trump has become the blockade to that. That's how he got back in 2024. So obviously, to the left, he's somebody that must be targeted, somebody that must be killed. This is not going to stop. There's 3 years left of this presidency. And it's a miracle that he's alive to begin with when you think about it. He was winged on the ear in that moment you just saw on the screen. That's still just so unbelievable that he survived Butler. It's unbelievable. He turns and just... And the truth is that missed attempt actually saved his life because it gave him the added security which detected Ryan Ruth hiding in the weeds just off the 6th green at his golf club in Palm Beach County later that same summer, about 2 months later. Without that missed attempt and the added security, Ryan Ruth had the easiest shot you could imagine. I sat there on the course and looked at it. I stood right where he was. It was a chip shot, as they say. The president would have been standing on the green, not moving much, putting. That's as easy as it gets with a rifle. The American left wants blood. You can see that. The Democrat Party has indicated to its far left flank, the craziest of them all, that they're on board with it. Republicans are what's standing in the way. They're on board with the agenda that the far left has in this country. Democrats have alluded to that pretty clearly. And the violence has followed because now the left thinks we can have power if we can just get these Republicans out of the way. Democrats have conceded to us we can have it if we just get them out of the way. And with that, maybe the most ridiculous take on all of this came from fired host of Meet the Press, Chuck Todd.
I'm not going to any more events where Trump's at him. I don't feel safe. Wherever Donald Trump
Chaos
is,
follows him.
chaos follows him. And you are less safe, right? If you decide to go into his orbit, you have become less safe. He does not care about your safety. He's not going to protect you if you go into his orbit because he's always going to protect himself first. He's more likely to throw you under the bus.
What a jackass. For years, NBC told you that man was a non-biased journalist as he hosted one of the most important news shows in the country. Just remember that when NBC tries to sell you on their credibility, when NBC tries to tell you that they're a real news organization. Just remember that. Today, Chuck Todd screaming in a basement to a few left-wing sycophants that watch his pitiful little podcast or whatever the hell it is, and shaming the president for being so hunted by a very dangerous subsection of society that he himself helps to radicalize. He can't admit that it's the people that believe in his ideology, the people that think the same way as him, that are trying to murder the other side, that are completely antithetical to everything that this country stands for. He won't acknowledge that, so he'll just blame Trump. As I left Washington Sunday morning, I was walking through the airport, Reagan Airport, caught this banner on George Stephanopoulos' show that indicated that the Correspondents' dinner was upended by a shooting inside hotel. Another beautiful euphemism to downplay the behavior of the left, George's people. George Stephanopoulos, big-time Democrat. Oh, it was a dinner that was upended by a shooting in the hotel lobby. Not an assassination attempt on the president for the 3rd time. Actually, the 4th. He had the guy at Mar-a-Lago when Trump wasn't there. There could be so many more, by the way. How many never even got to the point where we heard about it? The network's working hard to minimize this latest assassination attempt so it doesn't cost the Democrat Party politically, is what we're seeing right now. They do not want to talk about this story. Watch this thing evaporate from the news cycle very quickly. If this had happened to Joe Biden, this would be weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. With Trump, it's the assassination attempt du jour. Let's move on. And then there's the president demanding Democrats stop fighting his proposed White House ballroom, which he did again Saturday night right after the shooting. Take a listen.
We looked at all of the conditions that took place tonight, and I will say, it's not a particularly secure building. And I didn't want to say this, but this is why we have to have all of the attributes of what we're planning at the White House. It's actually a larger room, and it's much more secure. It's drone-proof, it's bulletproof glass. We need the ballroom. That's why Secret Service, that's why the military are demanding it.
It's a ballroom. It's not even really going to be done. I mean, it'll barely be done by the time he's getting out of office. It's not like it's for him personally. It's just something that the country needs, that we need. The ballroom has been on pause since a partisan judge intervened recently. Is there any clearer proof of the need of something like this in Washington? A massive room that'll hold 2,500 people? We're holding events for the President of the United States in run-down 50-year-old hotels as regular people just come and go. The lobby of the hotel was packed, absolutely packed with people that were not going to this event, that just wanted to be near it or were just hanging out. People in hotel rooms, people checking in with guns the day before. Maybe it's time for a ballroom, right? Kari Lake, Mercedes Schlapp join us now. Both these lovely ladies were with me on Saturday night, and it's good to have you here. Kari, we'll start with you and just your reaction to all of this.
Well, I was looking forward to a great night with the two of you and to hear the president. I know he was going to knock it out of the ballpark, and was astounded upon entering the grounds of the Hilton at how easy it was to get in. They asked for my ticket. I opened my purse, and the back of the ticket, which is plain, was showing, and they said, okay, come on in. Never asked for ID. Think about if somebody would have printed out 200 of these tickets and made phony tickets and invited all of the protesters in, putting on tuxedos, what could have happened? And then I talked to somebody who had to go into the ballroom earlier in the day to put down name tags in the late afternoon. And I found out that the person who put on the name tags on the table, they said there was no security in there. They could have brought in a weapon. They could have brought in, God forbid, what they could have done. It's just, and then we saw the famous picture, guys, remember, of one of the fake news journalists stealing some of the wine off the table? The wine was being brought in by individuals. What if something would have been planted in one of those bottles? There's so many things that could have gone wrong. I agree with you. We need better security anywhere this president goes. The king and queen are in town from England, and they're going to be having a state dinner in a tiny room. They could use that ballroom today. More importantly, we could use it for the safety and security of our president, vice president, and the line of succession for the government.
Yeah. You know, a friend of mine made a good point. He said, what if somebody, Mercedes, had just brought a bomb, had brought a bomb into the hotel the day before, in a relatively large suitcase. People have huge suitcases they bring into hotels. And then they just ran down with that. And then, you saw, the magnometers and what he ran through was right by the stairs that go right down to the ballroom. So you just toss. It's just surreal.
Rob, remember you and I were sitting right next to each other. At that point, I kept saying, I'm like, yes, Secret Service will leave with the president and the cabinet members, and then we are the sitting duck there in the event. Because the reality is that shooter could have detonated a bomb out of his hotel room. Let's just think about that for a minute. Which is, we really didn't know, was it just one shooter? Was he collaborating with others? Yep. Could he have bomb materials that he checked into the hotel? It was very easy. And with that alone, he was able to gain access into the lobby area. And as you were mentioning, Kari, it was jam-packed with people everywhere. And when you start seeing how close the shooter got to the main ballroom, it is very concerning. And of course, what was the hotel's response? The hotel's response, well, we've had security, the same security that we've had in previous years. Well, let me tell you something. We're in a different time right now where you've had the president that's almost been assassinated twice. I still don't understand why Vice President Vance and most of the cabinet members were there. I think that put them in a security risk as well. It's better to have the president and the vice president in separate places unless they are in secure locations like the White House, like Mar-a-Lago. It's just living in dangerous times.
And the truth is, it's just become a conversation yet again about rhetoric, and everybody's acting like they're going to cool down the rhetoric for about 10 minutes until we forget about this on Wednesday, and then it'll all go right back to where it was. But the truth is this, there's nasty rhetoric on both sides. We live in a very divided country right now. The problem is only one side of the aisle has a constituency that takes in their rhetoric and turns violent with it. Republicans say crazy stuff about Democrats. There's a lot of Looney Tune Republicans that say crazy stuff about Democrats, but Republican voters don't tend to just go try and kill Democrats because of what is said. And that is the big difference. And based on that comment right there, Kari, I just want to play something. Jake Tapper on CNN was trash talking you earlier, and I just wanted to play it, and I want to give you a chance to respond to it. This is going to be the first time.
I don't watch CNN. I haven't seen it.
I know. You'll see.
Kari Lake, the election denier who's currently in charge of Voice of America, she approached a CNN table after the shooting and blamed journalists for the attempted attack and personally insulted one of our correspondents as a, quote, midget. She then went outside and trailed me for about a block. I was trying to ignore her. She was saying that I was responsible for what happened. CNN's responsible for what happened.
Your reaction? Go ahead.
So I'm not surprised that he got his facts wrong. I never went up to the CNN table after the incident. I went up at the beginning of the night when I realized I was sitting next to them, and I talked to a couple of the folks there, and I said, I cannot believe that you guys call what you do journalism. It's despicable how you have portrayed the president, what you do, the bias you have. And they're like, well, we don't think we're doing anything wrong. And then I did notice one of their on-air people. I didn't realize he was like 4'2". I was taken aback. And I did make a mention of his height. And then when the evening ended, as we were all evacuating the building, I happened to look over, and who do I see but Jake Tapper? Yeah. And I thought, what am I supposed to do? Sit here and walk out with him and act like he's just a good guy? This is a man who's been responsible for calling President Trump some of the worst names you could possibly name. They've called the MAGA supporters, the people who support and love this country, they've called us the worst names possible. They have contributed to the absolute vile that is going out there, vile comments that have been going out there that have created an atmosphere that gets into the minds of mentally ill people and cause them to drive across the country with guns and try to kill the president. Yeah. And I was not going to sit there and talk to him like he was a nice guy. I was going to call him out for the reporting he's done. And I'm not the only one. I'm sure when he's out and about, other people do the same, because people are onto it. They're sick of what CNN and these other fake news outlets have done and the divisiveness they've caused.
Call him Fake Tapper because he pretends like he's not biased when he absolutely is. I can't blame you for that. And CNN just got new owners, so there's some very nervous people at those CNN tables.
They should be nervous.
They
should clean house and fire all these biased people.
I agree with that. Kari Lake, good to see you. Mercedes Schlapp. Ladies, thanks so much. Good to see you on Saturday night.
Thank you.
For the shortened time that we had. All right, Frank Loveridge is a retired Secret Service special agent in charge, 22-year veteran of the agency, joins us now. Want to get your reaction. There's a lot of criticisms about the security at the event. You know, I said in the monologue, the president was still protected. That worked. That apparatus did work, but it seemed very vulnerable. What do you think?
So thanks for having me on, Rob. I would say one thing, that looking at the site design, whenever you have, and we've hit this several times today on the Newsmax station, but we know that wasn't the right place to have this event. We know that we had the president, the vice president, the Speaker of the House, 9 cabinet officials in there, and prominent members of government packed in 2,500 people in a ballroom. The whole design was terrible. But on top of that, we've got to extend our perimeter. We've got to push it out. We can't have people walking into the lobby that are walking straight up to the magnetometers. We have an inner, a middle, and an outer perimeter. We have to extend that outer perimeter. The Secret Service really needs to drill down on their tactics, and they got to drill down on their methodology, because we got to do a better job. We learned from this one here. Yeah. Somebody was able to get out of their room, come down a staircase, 10 floors, and then come out into a utility room, stage his attack from there, and then attack the magnetometers. And Rob, one thing I do want to say is that we've talked about this too, is what if it was more than one person? What if that was a trained tactical team from a nation state, from maybe even from our enemy, from Iran, through proxies, whoever's in this country that came through our border for the last 4 years? And what if they were thinking, and they saw this? We just opened ourselves up. We got to do a better job and fill the holes, and we got to get better at what we do.
It's so true. I mean, you look at it, and it really is. It was scary to see, and I tell you what, this is why. I mean, the president, obviously, he moves around to a lot of different places. He gives a lot of speeches, but this one specifically, because it's always in the same place every single year, that is such a target in my mind now. If he shows up at a random hotel and does something, nobody really knows how it works. But this one, you know what to expect year after year after year after year. You can study this and you can figure out where the holes are. That's why I think this one in particular, they can't be having this at a hotel like this any longer. I got to leave it there. Frank Loveridge, good to see you. Thanks so much.
All right, thanks, Rob.
All right, I spoke to the president this afternoon, actually on the phone. We talked a little about Iran. He says the plan is to starve the regime out of power. Up next, the latest on the blockade as that regime makes yet another pitiful offer. Then later in news from the left, a drunk driving congressman posing as an environmentalist.
I'm able to just go across the Capitol right now. I can get from my office to the Senate side in probably about 4 minutes.
This was America in 1980, held in contempt by foreign nations. Across the world, people were losing their freedoms. So many countries thought America had seen its day, but we knew better. So we stopped complaining together and started working together. Today, America is strong again. We're looking to the future with confidence and pride. America's best days and democracy's best days lie ahead.
He's breathing. Okay, go again.
Nearly 5,000 people die from choking each year. That's frightening. I'm Dr. Ben Carson.
And I'm Arthur Lee. Well, there are ways to help prevent choking. Accidents do happen. That's why I invented the Life Pack.
Anyone can use this device, and it can save a life in seconds.
Just place, push, and pull. It's that simple. Please order one for your home, office, car, anywhere you eat.
Go to lifepack.net or call 877-543-3822.
Finally, your GLP-1 is as easy to take as a mint, no needles. Compounded tirzepatide is a mint-flavored tablet that dissolves under your tongue. It helps curb appetite and reduce cravings, including for sweets and carbs, making it easier to eat less and move intentionally towards your weight loss goals. Getting started is easy and surprisingly accessible with a quick online physician consultation.
Save $50 with code SLIM at noneedles.com/slim.
Mike Hammond of Signal Relief. We've helped nearly 700,000 feel relief in their back, shoulders, and knees with our technology. But for many of us, it's our feet that hurt. And when they hurt, our walks get shorter, activities are skipped, and the moments we love start slipping away. That's why we created the Signal Step, a patent-pending insole built using the same proven technology people already trust from Signal Relief. Signal uses no drugs. There's nothing on the market like it. It's relief without the side effects. It's reusable, fits virtually into any shoe, and in a recent study, over 85% felt relief, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Feel relief with every step. If you're hurting, go to signalstep.com and get relief today.
Kevin Sorbo here, and I have an important message to share. The government needs more money, your money. If you owe the IRS back taxes, they can garnish your wages and levy your bank accounts. They can even seize your retirement or take your home. Don't let the IRS target you. Call the professionals at Tax Network USA. Their tax lawyers and enrolled agents are experts in powerful programs that may even help you eliminate your tax debt.
Call for a free consultation or visit tnusa.com.
We're in Iran right now. Other presidents should have done it, but they never chose to do it. They should have. They made a terrible mistake by not doing it. They're not going to have a nuclear weapon. They will not have. They're not going to blow up the world. They're crazy.
All right, 60 Minutes last night, an update tonight on Iran. The president telling me on the phone earlier today the plan is to starve the regime out of power. Trump's saying today the regime's oil infrastructure could explode in the next 3 days as Iran runs out of storage for its oil, faces the idea of having to shut down their wells that really can't be shut down. They can't be reopened to give back any of the kind of capacity they're getting now. So it's a disaster if they have to close down, and that's where they're leading to right now. They're trying to store on ships anything they can do. On 60 Minutes, Trump saying the crazy Iranian regime will never have a nuclear weapon, asserting he believes prior U.S. presidents made a terrible mistake by not taking care of this threat, leaving it in his lap to have to deal with as they race towards a nuclear weapon. Axios reporting this morning amid the highly fragile ceasefire, Iran gave the U.S. a new proposal to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and end the war, with nuclear negotiations postponed for a later stage. Right. Brent Sadler, retired U.S. Navy captain, maritime expert. Victoria Coates, former deputy national security advisor. Good to have you both here. Brent, so Iran wants the blockade ended and then kick the can down the road while they make $500 million a day that they desperately need. That doesn't sound like a great deal.
No, this is just more delaying tactics on their part. And they already got like a 3 to 5 day extension on the ceasefire since April 7th, 8th. So I think the patience is worn out. The utility of extending the ceasefire for U.S. military forces to rearm, rest, and reposition is no longer there anymore. So there's very little on the U.S. side to continue prolonging this, and clearly the regime in Tehran does not respect the military hammer as much as they continued their attacks in the Persian Gulf. So I think it's probably time for a demonstration of force to get back to realistic negotiations.
Yeah. Victoria, Trump says he wants to starve this regime from power. Looks like, feels like we're getting pretty close to that moment, potentially.
Oh, absolutely. And I defer to Brent Sadler on all things naval. So I'm going to stick with the economy here. And this is really where the Iranian regime it's sort of down to their last sort of brass tacks here. They have nothing. And the president was talking about potentially exhausting their storage in the next couple of days. They're trying to stuff oil into derelict old ships. Yeah. They can't get anything out. Their currency is valueless, Rob. They're printing 10 million rial notes. And so we're seeing, kind of the death throes of this regime. Now, they are trying to string President Trump along with this new weak kind of offer that Axios is reporting. Secretary Rubio poured some real cold water on that earlier. I don't think it's real. And so, we can continue to try to starve them, completely consistent with what the president did in the first term. Right. And hopefully that will force them into a position to start to make concessions on the nuclear file.
Yeah. Brent, over the weekend, the president posted when he made the cancellation of the trip to Islamabad, Pakistan, too much time wasted on traveling, too much work, besides which there is tremendous infighting and confusion within their leadership. Nobody knows who's in charge, including them. The president says Iran has no cards. I talked to him for a few minutes earlier today, and it seems like he's just thinking, you know what, I've got this thing blockaded. It's almost like he's got a bag over their head just waiting for him to stop breathing.
That's a good analogy. I mean, all the time and all the leverage is on the U.S. side. But when it comes to the Straits of Hormuz, I think it's important that we demonstrate to the world that the United States is the one that controls access through there, and thereby the price of crude oil, not the Iranians. And so another attack, another attempt is all they need to do, even if it's ineffectual, to cause the confidence to drop and the insurance rates to rise and the shipping to stop again. So there's going to be a need, I think, for physical military presence, at least in the near term, to make a physical demonstration against the Iranians that leverage does not exist anymore for them over the Straits, and get the shipping back.
Yeah. I mean, the president did say today, Victoria, that he said it's likely that they'll make some kind of move. They'll lash out in some way as they get more and more desperate. You expect to see something like that? They have some amount of drones and missiles left.
They do, but we also have overwhelming military superiority in the region. And the other thing that's different now, Rob, is they've so offended all of their neighbors, even countries, say Qatar or Oman, who might have been inclined to help them in the past, now feel like they've been attacked. They've had their shipping disrupted. So the United States actually has an extraordinary reservoir of support in the Gulf based on the president's diplomacy from last year and the work he's done with those countries. I really think that may prove the decisive advantage for us going forward.
Okay. And one more to you, Victoria, before I let you go. The king in town at the White House today, trying to kind of help put this relationship back together. It's been strained ever since the start of this operation in Iran. Trump's not happy with Starmer. The president says that NATO will also be a topic of conversation as well. He's not happy with NATO generally. Go ahead.
No, King Charles has a very difficult and delicate mission, but the president really respects him, has great love for the people of the United Kingdom. Prime Minister Starmer has shown extraordinary, pitiful weakness over the course of the last 2 months. That leadership has to change in the UK, but I think this trip demonstrates that the relationship is bigger than any one prime minister on Downing Street, and that those relationships between real principles like the king and the president will endure.
Brent Sadler, Victoria Coates, guys, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So will this be enough for ABC to remove this idiot that hosts its late night show?
Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow.
Newsmax.
Shoots it straight. No talking down to me.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think. Don't tell me how to think.
I trust Newsmax. Newsmax.
They don't tell me how to think. They let me decide.
Real news for real people.
There's a rhythm that picks up when life slows down. When you have ATTR cardiac amyloidosis, there's still beauty to tend, still joy to gather and give. It's about living for what you love and not letting ATTR-CM define who you are. Attruby is an oral medicine proven to help adults with ATTR-CM live longer and have fewer hospitalizations due to heart issues. Attruby helps slow the progression of ATTR-CM. Tell your doctor if you're pregnant, plan to become pregnant, or are breastfeeding, and about the medications you take. The most common side effects were mild and included diarrhea and abdominal pain. If you have ATTR cardiac amyloidosis, ask your cardiologist if Attruby is right for you. Time to get busy living.
Is it just the mustache? No, it's all of it. It's the way he brings me wood to keep us nice and warm. And it's the way he brings me a fresh cup of Black Rifle coffee.
Honey, you having a Riley Green dream again?
Just give me 5 more minutes.
Okay.
Honey! Riley's taking me duck hunting!
Oh, come on!
Think you need a new roof? Think again and save thousands. We'll help you put off the high cost of a roof replacement for at least 5 years.
Or 10.
Or sometimes even 15.
We're America's most trusted roofer because we always try to save your roof rather than replace it.
We'll restore your roof for a fraction of the cost of a new one. But don't wait. If your roof loses too much protective coating, it's too late. Call now or scan the code and we'll give you an assessment of your roof for free.
Doctors say having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care and pharmacy at home. Let me bring in Dr. McCullough to explain more.
Most people know when they're getting sick, but waiting to see a doctor is often too late.
So the key is having medicines before you need them.
Yes, and it includes doctor-prescribed medicines to treat common and serious issues like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, antibiotics, antivirals for flu, pneumonia, strep, ear and sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
So it is like having an urgent care at home.
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications and hospitalizations.
How do you know what to take?
Just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Great advice. I understand ordering is fast online, and we've put the website and $45 off code on the screen. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
The first day back from maternity leave is so weird. We get it. Find a caregiver who does too. When it's not you, it's care.com.
Our First Lady Melania is here. Look at Melania, so beautiful. Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow.
Just before the White House Correspondents' dinner shooting, Jimmy Kimmel telling that joke to his audience of the Trump deranged out there. Melania actually responded to that today. She doesn't often respond to things, but she did to this. Kimmel's hateful and violent rhetoric is intended to divide our country. His monologue about my family isn't comedy. His words are corrosive and deepens political sickness within America. People like Kimmel shouldn't have the opportunity to enter our homes each evening to spread hate. A coward, Kimmel hides behind ABC because he knows the network will keep running cover to protect him. Enough is enough. It is time for ABC to take a stand. The president backing that up, saying Jimmy Kimmel should be fired immediately by Disney and ABC. And Marc Beckman is a senior advisor to First Lady Melania Trump, producer of her new film, which I have heard is wonderful as well. And Marc's here in the studio with us. And it's good to see you here. You know her better than most people. You've worked with her for a very long time. You have a very good relationship with the First Lady. I can't even fathom what she thought when she saw that. I assume she saw it probably in the aftermath of all of this, to see that was said about her in the night before that this happened.
Correct, that's right. But the reality is that Jimmy Kimmel should be fired from ABC. And in my opinion, it's not even about the First Amendment. This isn't a freedom of speech issue. This is about, does the corporation, the ABC, it's Disney, I guess, right?
Yeah, right.
Do they want to affiliate with violent political rhetoric of this nature? And it's not an isolated incident. Kimmel's been talking this way about the president, about other people in the cabinet, and now the First Lady and the family. He had Barron's photo over and over and over again. So at what point does ABC, do the advertisers step up and say, enough is enough, we don't want to be affiliated with this?
I mean, how little does it take for advertisers to boycott something on the conservative side versus, I mean, you have a comedian, he used to be a comedian, I don't know what he is anymore. I mean, he's sitting there mocking and hopefully joking about the death of her husband with an image of his son and his wife on the screen. And this is on, again, just to reemphasize, this is on ABC, one of the first networks in this country, a network that is federally regulated, is brought right into everyone's living room. It's like a right of television media in this country to have ABC on your TV. And for it just, to me, it's, as you said, surreal that the network hasn't done something about this yet. And now I think they're waking up. I would hope they're waking up and realizing we should have gotten rid of him before, because he's not going to stop.
That's right, correct. And the words matter, because today, for example, I read a Wall Street Journal article, and they were citing a report, a recent study that shows that, in fact, political violence is now happening more from the left, more from the Democrats than the far-right Republicans. There used to be a moment in time where the Republicans were committing more political violence, but the violent act now has shifted, and it's all going to the Democrats. And if you think about it, how are these people being influenced? What part of the ecosystem, from the media, entertainment, academia, and beyond, are influencing people to go out, and the government are influencing people to go out and behave this way? We cannot have this anymore. We cannot live this way.
You know, Melania is very, unlike the president, Melania is very reserved. She doesn't make a lot of public statements. She kind of likes to be quiet. She likes to be kind of secretive. For her to come out and make this statement, I think, carries a lot more weight with a network like ABC. Trump's always going to scream for Kimmel to be gone. He hates Kimmel, and we understand that. When she comes out and makes a statement, I think that holds a lot of weight, because now you're saying your joke is that my husband's going to die and the father of this young man is going to die. That's your joke on ABC at night? That's the joke?
Correct. And for sure, you're right. It's funny that the British royal family, the British king and queen, are in Washington, D.C. now, tonight. People compare Melania to old school royalty. She's quiet in the background, reunifying Ukrainian children with their families, setting up a network across America to help foster care children in almost 33% of the states across our nation. She does it quietly. But for this, she put her foot down. Enough is enough. And ABC should act.
Yeah, I agree with you. Marc Beckman, the film is out. I've heard it's great, and we appreciate you coming in.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
All right. Arguments over redistricting in Virginia heard today by the state Supreme Court. Will this outrageous scheme be thrown out? It's coming up next.
So, here is a before of my stomach before Sono Bello, and this is after.
This year, don't just lose weight, lose stubborn fat and sagging extra skin permanently at Sono Bello.
I had some loose, wiggly skin, and it is no longer there thanks to Sono Bello.
Our expert surgeons use micro laser technology to safely target and remove your diet-resistant fat and tighten loose skin permanently.
I wanted the results of the tummy tuck, but not the downtime. I had a 10 out of 10 experience.
We've helped over 300,000 people transform, and we're proud to be America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist.
In just one visit, Sono Bello got rid of my love handles and my belly fat.
Do you want that flat stomach? You go get that flat stomach.
Call Sono Bello. Get in there for your free consultation. Do this for you.
Schedule your free, no-obligation consultation. Our flexible payment options make it easy to get started today.
Rain cancels plans. The Bearskin Heavy Storm Rain Jacket cancels rain. Fishing, back on. Hunting, back on. Oh dear. Metal detecting, if that's your thing, back on. All right. The Bearskin Heavy Storm Rain Jacket comes with rainsulation technology that locks out wet weather to keep you dry. Rain shouldn't decide your day.
Get 60% off and free delivery when you go to rainjacket.tv.
AI can turn your lights on.
Lights on.
And drive your car. And even write your kid's essay. But AI ain't gonna fix your broken water line or pay for the big repair bill. Having a plan from HomeServe offers real solutions. And when a covered system breaks, we'll send a qualified contractor and pay for the repair. There's nothing artificial about the peace of mind you get with a plan from HomeServe. Getting one is quite intelligent.
Plans from HomeServe start at just $4.99 a month.
Call 1-844-752-2141 or visit homeserve.com.
At Allegiance, we do it differently. Flags 100% made in America by Americans with American materials.
We're proud to create jobs right here in South Carolina. It might not be the easiest way, but it's the right way.
We make American flags the way they should be made, where they should be made.
Join our pledge to keep the American flag truly American.
Visit showallegiance.com to get your high-quality American flag today. That's showallegiance.com.
They tell you to optimize, to hack. But what if you were never broken? Armor Colostrum, the first food of life, reawakens your innate brilliance. 400 nutrients, 4 seconds, 1 daily revival.
My name is Deanna Perazzo, and I'm a professional wrestler. I want to use my spotlight to help T2T because my husband was a combat veteran. Helping vets is so important because they're often the most disregarded people in our society. And so to be able to say, like, we see you, we see the sacrifice, we see the struggle you go through to support us in our scariest moments, that deserves to be celebrated, that deserves to be honored. Please help by donating $11 a month at T2T.org. Let us do good.
All right, last week in Virginia, Democrats pulled off a pretty nasty move, right? A referendum barely passing, lying to voters, claiming to make elections fair, turning this purple state into nearly solid blue in Congress. Just one district now they want for all the rural area in the western part of the state, and the rest of them, the other 10, are all blue. Changing Virginia's congressional representation from 6 blue, 5 red to 10 blue, 1 red. Today, the Virginia Supreme Court heard oral arguments on the constitutionality of what they just did last week, the process used to get the referendum on the ballot. Republican attorneys challenging the referendum, saying the Democrat-led assembly violated the procedural requirements to get the map on the ballot. So let's talk about exactly what's alleged here. State Senator Ryan McDougle, the man leading the charge to get this referendum thrown out, joins us now. Ali Triolo is the RNC Election Integrity Communications Director. And to you both, thanks for coming on. Ryan, give me the specific reasons why this should fail, why the Virginia Supreme Court should listen to you.
Trial court ruled in our favor on 3 counts. One was that notice was not given to local clerks of court by the clerk of the House of Delegates. 2, that we were in special session when the original referendum vote was taken by the legislature, and that special session should never have existed because there was an intervening regular session.
Yeah.
And then 3 is that there has to be an intervening election, and this was done 5 days before the election actually occurred on election day, but over 1 million Virginians had already voted. Those 3 reasons should be enough for the court to rule that this was not done constitutionally.
Yeah. And Ali, also, I mean, the wording of the amendment was ridiculous, or the referendum was ridiculous, the way they worded it, saying they're going to bring back fairness by taking away representation from 10-1 for Democrats in a state that's pretty tight. Trump lost that state by 5 points. Now they want to have 1 congressional district for all of those Republicans. Pretty bad.
Yeah, listen, Rob, we know that this is a partisan power grab, and we know that Democrats are masters at lying to their voters. Just taking a look at that ballot language, we went from Virginia arguably having the most fair districts in all of the nation to the 10-1 split. We even have 1 district drawn to look like a lobster tail. We know that makes no sense. Carving up communities. I'm born and raised in California. I know a thing or two about this. And the Republican Party, I can tell you here at the RNC, we have been actively involved in stopping this power grab since October when this first came before the state legislature, and we'll continue to fight tooth and nail in court to make sure that this doesn't go any further, because we know that these districts are not representative of Virginians.
Yeah, they're certainly not. And this is far more dramatic than what was done in Texas. I mean, this is very egregious. Looks a lot like the Northeast does, where you just have no representation at all, even though, 40% of the state can be Republican and there's no representation. Ryan, the Virginia courts didn't rule out, but perhaps some indication on how they're leaning. They didn't rule today, but perhaps an indication how they're leaning. Justice Wesley G. Russell Jr. Peppered counsel with questions that suggest he might side with Republican challengers, according to this write-up from Bloomberg. Stephen R. McCullough, another justice, chimed in several times asking whether what the lawmakers did here was unprecedented. You followed this today. How did you feel about it in court?
Well, I thought, just like every appellate argument, both sides presented their case. the judges cannot really be held to what's said in court. They're going to go on the briefs and the law. And in this case, the law is clear. There has to be an intervening election. That is clear. Special sessions cannot go on in perpetuity like this one did. That's clear. There are other arguments from other cases coming that are also really good arguments of the Constitution being violated. I think the judges heard the arguments that were in the briefs. They saw how the trial court ruled, and I think that they're going to rule that this is unconstitutional, and they should, because it's not.
Allie, you feeling optimistic?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the RNC, we have poured millions of dollars into this legal fight. We have done everything we could to stand up for Virginians. We know that our communities deserve fair maps. We know what they're doing, exactly as our state senator said, is unconstitutional. So, of course, we feel confident. A circuit court already ruled these maps unconstitutional, and we look forward to seeing a decision soon, hopefully from the state Supreme Court.
So do I. This feels like a big-time scam. When you look at those numbers, it just looks like a big scam. Ali Triolo and State Senator Ryan McDougle, good to have you guys. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Rob.
Up next, a bar in Wisconsin that can't wait to celebrate Trump's death. We're going to tell you where this is next in News from the Left.
Total Beats, America's best-selling Beats brand, is available at Walmart. Total Beats blood pressure support soft chews contain a key ingredient clinically shown to deliver 2 times better blood pressure support. Take control of your health. Head to Walmart and get Total Beats blood pressure support soft chews today.
Mike Hammond of Signal Relief. We've helped nearly 700,000 feel relief in their back, shoulders, and knees with our technology. But for many of us, it's our feet that hurt. And when they hurt, our walks get shorter, activities are skipped, and the moments we love start slipping away. That's why we created the Signal Step, a patent-pending insole built using the same proven technology people already trust from Signal Relief. Signal uses no drugs. There's nothing on the market like it. It's relief without the side effects. It's reusable, fits virtually into any shoe, and in a recent study, over 85% felt relief, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Feel relief with every step. If you're hurting, go to signalstep.com and get relief today.
It's April, time for digital spring cleaning.
I shall purge the clutter!
Whoa, use PCmatic. Our whitelist technology automatically cleans out malware and junk files without...
Delete the cookies. Delete!
Without breaking the computer. Get PCmatic. We clean the smart way. American-made security for homes, businesses, and government agencies.
Visit PCmatic.com today.
IRS. 3 letters that strike fear into everyone, and for good reason. The IRS is the most powerful collection agency on earth, and being in debt to the IRS can have serious consequences. Oftentimes it begins with the IRS sending you a collection letter, but then escalates, and before you know it, you're having your paychecks garnished, your bank account seized, even your home or business could be at risk.
My problem was I hadn't paid my taxes in 8 years. I was trying to take on the IRS by myself. I have 5 children, I'm trying to take care of my kids, and it was a lot of stress.
I owed the IRS over $10,000. They told me the possibilities of garnishing my wages to resolve this debt that I owed them.
I owed a lot of money to the IRS, almost $15,000. Well, there was nothing I could do about it. I was just overwhelmed at what to do.
These stories are all too common, but thankfully there's Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 most trusted tax resolution firm. Optima's experts have helped thousands of people with stories just like these resolve their tax debt.
I owe $15,000. I only had to pay $3,500, and now my debt is clean. I don't owe anything. It was easy, like 1, 2, 3.
Since I've settled everything with the IRS, with Optima Tax help, I'm going to be able to succeed instead of just worry.
They sent the paperwork in for the debt to be cleared, the liens to be taken off. Now I'm a happy camper now. If you owe the IRS, don't go it alone. Give Optima Tax a call.
So don't wait. Today you have options. Tomorrow you might not. Optima's tax professionals are standing by, ready to help you now.
For a free consultation, call 800-375-1215. That's 800-375-1215.
Optima Tax Relief.
My life was constantly interrupted by pee breaks, day and night, until I found Eucora's In Control. It's an herbal supplement that reduces my urgency, leaks, and nighttime bathroom trips. I was at the end of my roll, but now I'm in control. Try today at eucora.com.
Welcome back. Time now for news from the left. California Democrat Dave Min, once convicted of drunk driving, has been seen racing through Capitol Hill on an e-scooter and selling this mode of transportation as his own lifestyle and environmental choice, and not perhaps something that he learned as punishment for getting a Dewey. Take a listen.
I'm able to just go across the Capitol right now. I can get from my office to the Senate side in probably about 4 minutes. I think that's an important first step as we, as states and local jurisdictions, try to think about how to balance the safety concerns with, the popularity of e-bikes. I think e-bikes and scooters, electric scooters, are fantastic. They're a great thing to have, great way to get around. We don't want to discourage adoption of them, but we do want to encourage efforts to regulate safety.
And they're really fun to drive drunk. Kidding. Next up, climate grifter Al Gore discussing climate migrants once again. Take a listen to this.
24 years from now, the world could see more than 1 billion climate migrants crossing international borders. If that came from a few million climate migrants, can we even imagine what 1 billion climate migrants might cause? We could see dire threats to our capacity for self-governance in the chaos that would be a risk if that occurred.
I mean, we're still pretending that there's something known as a climate migrant. What really happened is you started letting everybody from terrible places just move anywhere they wanted, and of course they're going to come. If you start telling people from the third world they can just come to the United States and come to the West, they're all going to show up. Stop pretending that they have the excuse of climate just because it's 1 degree warmer in South America than it was 10,000 years ago. Laughable. They continue with this nonsense. Next up, this is actually a pretty funny story. The woke wife of a New York restaurateur humiliating herself. Rachel McPherson is her name. Her husband owns the Waverly Inn, which is a great restaurant in the West Village here in Manhattan. And this woman also counts on hubby to prop up her horrifically woke clothing line full of left-wing nonsense nobody wants, like a T-shirt that says "Ice Out" and "No Kings" and all this crap. "My body isn't a political playground" on your sweatshirt. Yeah, who's buying this stuff? McPherson, though, now making headlines for getting drunk at a dinner at her husband's restaurant, trying to make out with the busboy, and then bribing him to stay quiet to save her marriage to the guy that's propping up her crappy clothing line. The busboy alleging in a lawsuit that Rachel engaged in a series of escalating and unwanted physical acts, saying she leaned in on him, grabbed his arm, repeatedly tried to bring her face to his face, and give him a big smooch. The wife of the boss, I should say. The young man complained about the wife's behavior to management, who was dismissive of the complaint, as you probably would expect. Rachel texted the young man asking for his payment applications, which he understood as an attempt to influence or silence him, bribe him to shut up. According to the lawsuit, the young man also learning that the surveillance footage of the attempted makeout session was deleted. But you got this woke New York girl with her crappy clothing line and the rich husband propping it up, and she's trying to make out with the busboy, which is just the most New York City married story I can tell you after living here for 13 years. And finally, the Minocqua Brewing Company in the great state of Wisconsin is not a great place to get a beer. Known for promising free beer when Donald Trump dies, they are getting hammered for a Facebook post after his near assassination attempt over the weekend. Owned by Wisconsin Democrat Kirk Bangstad. Okay, Kirk. Minocqua has reportedly used the brewery's brand to attack Trump and Republicans many times. The brewery posting on social media after the foiled attack at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Well, we almost got a free beer day. They posted this. Either a brother or sister in the resistance needs to work on their marksmanship, or he faked another assassination to get a positive news cycle. We'll never know. Regardless, we stand at the ready to pour free beer the day it happens. So this is the Minocqua Brewing Company, Minocqua, Wisconsin. I seriously advise you not to go there, but I won't tell you to go burn it down because I'm not as sick and twisted as the idiot that owns that bar. And we'll leave it there. Bill Maher on wealth taxes coming up next.
You know Rob Finnerty. He's smart, bold, and stands strong for your values. Rob is fighting for you. Watch Finnerty weeknights only on Newsmax.
Finally, your GLP-1 is as easy to take as a mint, no needles. Compounded tirzepatide is a mint-flavored tablet that dissolves under your tongue. It helps curb appetite and reduce cravings, including for sweets and carbs, making it easier to eat less and move intentionally towards your weight loss goals. Getting started is easy and surprisingly accessible with a quick online physician consultation.
Save $50 with code SLIM at noneedles.com/slim.
This little light of mine in the dark found a hopeful sign.
For those with depression not getting enough relief from their antidepressant, adding Caplyta can help you let in the light, providing greater relief from depression symptoms than an antidepressant alone. And unlike some medications, Caplyta is also proven to deliver significant symptom relief from both bipolar 1 and 2 depression.
Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke. Caplyta is not approved for dementia-related psychosis. Call your doctor about new or sudden mood changes, behaviors, or suicidal thoughts right away. Antidepressants may increase these risks. Report fever, confusion, stiff muscles, which may be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movements, which may be permanent. High cholesterol and weight gain may occur, as can high blood sugar, which may be fatal. Common side effects are sleepiness, dizziness, nausea, dry mouth, feeling tired, and diarrhea. These aren't all the side effects.
Ask your doctor about Caplyta.
Help see more of the light inside of me.
Tired of the hassle and high costs of selling a home? We can help. At Ideal Agent, we'll connect you with a top local agent that'll sell your home fast for top dollar, and all this for as low as a 2% commission.
We got the top dollar for our house and the lowest commission that I could have imagined. The house sold in 2 days. It was so exciting for us.
Ideal Agent is available nationwide, there's no obligation, and best of all, our service is completely free. Call today or visit idealagent.com.
Some men just have it. It's not the car, the places he goes, or the moments he creates for her. It's the way he carries himself, the way he shows up, and doesn't need to say a word. She can sense it. It's not second guessing. It's knowing. I've arrived. Collars & Co. Presence starts here. Get 20% off today using code TV at collarsandco.com.
Finally tonight, Bill Maher, California resident, and I think soon to be a Republican, slamming the idea of a wealth tax in this country.
I paid to the government probably almost 60% of what I earn, and I still wouldn't mind if Bernie Sanders would stop saying the rich don't pay taxes. And while I'm sure the super rich with their army of accountants and corporate loopholes get away with murder, us regular rich people pay a ton of taxes. The top 10% pay 72% of all federal income taxes. How can you be soaking the rich and failing the poor so badly?
Yes, the politicians, the ones that are screaming all this, they are the enemy. They are the reason for all the issues that we have. And meanwhile, in that state of California, a new study warning billionaire tax would destroy the economy. The initiative, a 5% tax on the net worth of residents exceeding $1 billion. Basically, they're just taking your property, by the way. They're just taking your stuff. That's not a tax. That's theft. The analysis finding more than 108,000 jobs could be lost if that goes into effect. $28 billion in wages would be lost. Finnerty's up next. They would actually lose money if they impose this tax, is the analysis.
Yeah,
they're going to raise a tax and bring in less money because of it. That's when you know you've jumped the ship.
It's highway robbery, Rob. I probably paid Uncle Sam between $15 and $20 million this tax season alone. 15, 20. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, Rob. I don't mind.
I'm going to have to talk to my agent.
I don't mind. I think we have the same agent.
We do have the same agent.
All right, Finnerty's next, Rob.
All
Good
right.
to see you.
Talk him dead.